Hello, and welcome to the Nerds at Large Spoilercast for Bojack Horseman Season 5. There he is. Jeff got a pop figure.
Yep.
I'm guessing for free. What was the story behind this Bojack pop figure?
Mom just got it for me for Christmas.
Oh, okay. Well, let's let the camera see it. It's pretty cool. Look. Bojack.
Little Bojack.
Little Bojack. With a smile on his face.
In a flask.
That rarely happens. The flask happens a lot. Oh, well, whatever. We're not doing the Tomb Raider spoiler cast. Get out of here, Lara Croft.
No one likes you.
I'm Darby Hallman.
I'm Jeff Mann.
And if you haven't watched one of our spoiler casts before, we're going to talk a little bit spoiler free for just a few minutes. So if you haven't seen season 5, which you should probably get on that because spoilers, it's really good. We'll let you know whenever we get into the spoilers. So let's start out from the beginning. And Jeff, I apologize to you and to anyone listening because it's impossible for me to talk about Bojack without potentially overhyping it or making it sound hyperbolic, because I'm not even kidding when I say this is the best show I've ever seen in my entire life. And even when I think it can't get any better, it just continues to do so. I imagine you're somewhere along the same lines.
Yeah, I love the show.
It's so freaking good, and I feel like this season, at the end of season 4, you kind of, with Hollyhock's character and just kind of Bojack in general, he kind of took a back seat at the beginning and went more towards the end. But I think it's fair to say, in the grand scheme of most Bojack seasons, I think the end of last season was a little more hopeful. Yeah. Just mostly the end with him and Hollyhock. That was the central part of that. And I think most shows, when you get to that sort of point, it's okay, well, we're trending up and everything's going to start being positive for our hero character from here on out. And it's just Bojack Horseman again and again. This show is very much structured like real life, where you have horrible times, you have good times, and then you cascade right back down to terrible again. And it's self-defeating. It's hard to watch because you just love these characters so much, but it's also just legitimately some of the best written characters I can think of. And this season got me. I don't know about you. From an emotional standpoint. I don't know. So what do you think? What was your favorite parts about what stood out to you this season?
It's hard to do without going to spoilers.
I know. Just general,
a lot of things, and of course we'll get into spoilers. Some of the storylines for some characters went to where you expected them to. Yeah, and just kind of got some conclusions for what the storyline was, or some ways set up for future storylines. It's very much not the end. This is very much setting up for other things. And the biggest thing is Bojack Horseman has always been very cyclical to me, but in a good way. A lot of characters end up in the same spots they've been in before, again and again, which sounds like a bad thing, but it's actually it's real life. It's these people, whether it's Bojack or it's I'm not gonna spoil things, but Princess Carolyn ends up in a lot of the same traps that she's been in before, and just I don't know, just the cycle of what it means to try to be happy. And find fulfillment in life, and even sometimes when you get what you think you want, whether it's Bojack with his show, or I'm trying to think of what I could say that would be known at the end of last season without spoiling things. It's hard, but you know what I mean. People get what they want, and it's not always, that's not always going to make you happy. Everything. These are just very, very vague things. All right, what else can we say spoiler free before we get in there? I don't think there's really much more we can.
There's not too much. I just think that, the writing, I thought season 4, I was probably, if you go back to our season 4 spoilercast, I was probably saying similar things, that I just struggled to feel how they could get these characters better, but I think they have. And it's so much the culmination of 5 seasons of watching this show. You really, really care about these characters. And once again, more than the show has any right to be. The show, a comedy show about a cartoon animals. But
man, the show's special.
Indeed.
It is absolutely special. And if you have not seen season 5, if you're putting it off for some reason, don't.
It's all there.
Don't. Just go do it. Go do it. And also, like, I guess last thing, like, I still think that the Netflix style works so well for the show because, and I'll get into more of the specifics of why, but like, I feel like because it's a show that they know everyone's watching them, if not in like, you know, you're watching several in one chunk. You're not going to just sit down and watch one for the most part. Stuff. You're binging it. And because of that, I feel like they're able to be very experimental like they have in the past. Like I'm assuming in this season 5 thing that you've seen the other seasons.
Yeah,
and,
at the very least.
Yeah, there's like the underwater episode. Like that comes to mind to me as like a very experimental, random, like it almost seems like the writer's room. They're like, how can we challenge ourselves? Like what could we, like our writing is so good, our dialogue's so good. What if we just take that out and still try to make a compelling thing? And there's some of that in this season, which we'll get into. And I feel like because of the nature of everyone's watching it, you're not having to wait week to week. You can do those things and people aren't mad about it. Because if you wait all week and you get an episode that's very weird and different, you can have a like, like
why are we seeing the, what happened after this? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, you feel like, oh, we're wasting time. I have to wait a whole other week. But no, it's like you get this awesome experimental thing, but then you go right back into it. You know what I mean? I think it works perfectly for it. And it kind of, Bojack's definitely one of those that's showing that our week-to-week television thing might not be the way that we should be watching television. But
yeah.
All right, well, let us move on from now on. From this point onwards, make sure you have watched Bojack Horseman Season 5 if you're going to continue to listen to this podcast.
Don't make Bojack sad.
Don't make Bojack sad.
Any more sad.
I don't think Bojack as a character would care. No, he actually cares very much about you watching his show.
Yeah.
So, okay. This point on, spoilers.
I can't believe Bojack died.
I know, it's crazy. I don't know, Jeff. Where to freaking begin? It's so tempting to begin with the end, but I don't know. Let's start wherever. Let's start wherever.
Let's start at the beginning. It kind of starts off. We get a little look into what Bojack's new show is, Filbert.
Yes, and
for what time is it right now.com.
That's so funny. People who don't know that there's a clock in the side of the corner of their screen.
Yep.
I thought
can't have clocks on the show. No watches.
No. I thought the way they did this the entire season, obviously more so towards the end where they were kind of like flipping between like the story and Filbert and the story like in real life. I thought that like worked really, really well off of each other.
Yeah, Bojack was like, wait, what's going on? What's real? They're like, wait, is this show stuff? What's going on now?
And like he was confused, the audience was confused. It was like everyone.
We're all on the same page.
Yeah. It was really, 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 really good. And I like that like every season's kind of had its own thing where there was like Secretariat before and now it was this, but they're all like very different but kind of similar in interesting ways that I like a lot.
Filbert's house looks a lot like Bojack's.
Looks so much like Bojack's. Yeah, Lily goes, he's like, this really does look a lot like your house. Okay, well, what else? There was also do we want to talk about, I don't know, because there was also the Princess Carolyn stuff. There was just like so many different arcs going on at the same time.
I feel like with this, it might be better if we just talk about people's storylines as a whole.
Yeah. Well, I guess how would you like, I guess one other thing that I've like always thought about is like Bojack in general is kind of like very much, when you think about him like on paper, he's kind of the like, like straight white like movie star dude who like has like a bunch of self-abusive problems and has a new girl like every single like time you see him. There's like some other girl that he like uses and throws away and stuff, like very much like a James Bond-ish character that media in general has always like excused or like celebrated. It's like, James Bond will like get drunk and have some girl or whatever, in the next movie he has another one, and it's like something we applaud and celebrate or something. And Bojack is very much that, but like the actual real version of it. It's that, but we actually see the consequences of it. Like, if you told someone, like, yeah, Bojack's just this alcoholic dude that's really funny and has a new girl every season, that sounds bad.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's not good for him. It's very bad for him. And I feel like I've said the same thing every time he has a season. It's like, it's almost like watching a friend, you know, who is very self-abusive, and like they get with a girl and it's like, this girl's really good, this girl's really good for him, and then he screws it up and she goes, and you like feel bad, but you also can't blame the girl. I feel like that's how I feel every single time I watch a Bojack season. Exactly. And I said the same thing I already forgot, there's been so many of them, like his owl girlfriend, I forgot her name, like there's so many of them where it's like, I can't blame you for going. I cannot blame you at all for going. I love Bojack, but God, I cannot blame you for not wanting to be with him. You know, like, and that's very powerful. I'm talking about a TV show. It sounds like I'm talking about like a real life.
I'm talking about a cartoon.
I know.
About a horse.
That's what like blows my mind. The way, like, how much you feel like Bojack is not a likable character. He is not a good dude. He is very far from a good dude, but God, you care about him so much and you want him to be happy, but you just can't be happy.
Most people in this show, a lot of people in this show aren't necessarily good people. Except for, as far as main characters, Princess Carolyn, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
even
everyone, but like, and it's also just like,
Todd.
That definitely shows like, no one's really a good person all the time.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it's going for, you know?
Closest is Todd, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I've struggled to think of too many times Todd's been like a bad person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even Mr. Peanut Butter cheated on his girlfriend in this season.
No,
it's like,
I mean, what I like about the season of Mr. Peanut Butter, it's kind of showed a thing that you always knew was there. Like, there, you know, Mr. Peanut Butter's always seemed like this nice guy and everything. Is like, as the story went on with him officially getting divorced with Diane, and then his glowing relationship with Pickles, like, oh, there's more to necessarily him having all these ex-wives than the jokes.
Right.
It's more like he is the problem, and the problems are kind of coming more to light. And then when you're watching, you're like, oh, those were always there in front of us. They're just being more forefront of that.
Right. And like, it's such good writing, because like what has been basically a joke this whole time with Mr. Peanut Butter with his like ex-wives and how he's just always happy-go-lucky all the time doing all this, like what has been a punchline for so long, like becomes like, no, that's the problem, like that's like his like core character problem. And I was about to the words were about to come out of my mouth, like that Halloween party episode was probably one of the best episodes I've ever seen, but there's so many good episodes here. I don't know, but it's at least it feels like it's up there, tied for there. Yeah, like Mr. Peanut Butter was very interesting in this season, just because, and like, I mean, his whole thing where he's like, I'm not used to being, like, he's like, I'm not happy now, and I'm not used to this. And Diane's like, well, yeah, no shit. This is called life.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, ugh, it's rough. It's very, 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 very rough. I was going to say something. I don't know. Well, what should we move on to now?
I don't know. Again, you want to try to do it episode by episode, or do you think we should just talk about storylines?
Storylines, probably, but...
Okay, maybe do you got any more we want to say about Mr. Peanut Butter's thing? About, I guess we can go... It ended with him proposing to Pickles.
Which is another thing, which is just like... I mean, like, you're sitting there, you're like, no,
doing it again.
It's an endless cycle. It's like, yeah, that's gonna come to a head.
And you were kind of hoping, like, you could have seen, like, Pickles was going more and more away. Yeah. Like, she was starting to see the problem, but in the end, even she was like, okay.
Yeah, because everyone just going back to their things, and it's just like, it's also, you're seeing these people getting older, and, like, getting, like, yeah, like, he should not be with Pickles whatsoever. Like, they're not compatible with each other. It's not her fault, but it's like, they're absolutely not compatible whatsoever.
I think they said, like, how old Pickles was, and then it's like, yeah, she'd be a year older than me, or something like that.
Yeah, I don't remember, but...
I think they did the Halloween party, and I think that was formed, like, 92-ish or something.
Yeah.
And then she said, oh, that's the year I was born. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's great.
Mr. Peanut Butter's like, oh.
That's great. What a cool... Yeah.
Well, shit. Yeah. Yeah.
And he's like 40.
Oh, well. Yeah. People are getting
he's
old.
Like, I mean, he's like, yeah, 45-50 range, I think made it sound like in there.
Well, yeah, and that was just like
Makes sense that was 92 and he was already
the dangerous like chasing youth thing or whatever, and just like Diane is one of my favorite characters, if not my favorite character in this whole thing, and always has been, and just her conversations with like the fact that like there are so many characters that depend on Diane to try to like help them stay right and stay sane, and they don't like really do anything for her in return.
Yeah,
and it's taking its toll on her or whatever, and it's like it's so rough because you know like she basically like she plays therapist and plays like life helper for everyone else but herself, and it's very, very tough.
Kind of mentioned that, but it's like you always come with me with these problems, but then you keep on getting right back into them.
It's cyclical, because that's life again. It's like that. Yeah, I don't really have much more for Mr. Peanut Butter other than just like this was a super, super good season. Like you really, really saw way more of him and Diane's relationship. And it's like, I don't know what I want. I don't know if I want him and Diane to be together. Like this show is like, I've at times thought I wanted Bojack and Diane to be together. I thought I wanted Diane and Mr. Peanut Butter. I've like thought that none of them should be with anyone like this.
I feel like Diane and Miss Peanut will not get back together unless Miss Peanut does doing the whole grown-up thing. But even then, it's like, will they even still be compatible then?
Yeah, and sometimes you see like even like Princess Carolyn and I forgot her boyfriend from before or whatever.
The rabbit.
Where it's like to him it seems like nothing's changed, but she's like I'm done. Like I'm over that part of my life or whatever, and I could see that kind of thing happening with them, and it's. But I have no clue also. Like, this is not a very predictable thing, and it's gonna, it's very, very rough. All right, well, let's move on from that one.
I guess since... do you want to talk any more we need to say about Diane? About her little thing?
Which thing?
Or, I mean just her in general. We start out with that whole,
I mean, I don't know, we can get into it now. I think that the entire plot with them pulling back whatever, I always forget the name of like Bojack's old girlfriend from like forever ago, the deer who he went in New Mexico, Charlotte, and whatever the daughter's name was that I forgot. I think pulling that back up and just everything they did with that was like some of the strongest writing. It's like one of the like most visceral, like, it was hard,
Yeah.
Seeing that, because it's one of these things. It's like, once again, this show has built you to love Bojack and stuff so much, but he did something unforgivable. And it's like a lot of shows and stuff would kind of just like, oh, he got better. He's like better or whatever. Yep. And it's like, this is like, no, you love this man, but he is like, that's an unforgivable thing he did. And it very, very, very much like, is a parallel for today's society when there's horrible people who did horrible things that you like we look at Louis C.K. I think Louis C.K. is a funny dude. He did horrible things. How do I rectify that? A lot of times
we got a whole episode about that.
Yes, I mean, a lot of times honestly I'll probably like look at it and laugh at this stuff because it's just like it's hard. And like this is a very personal like vision of that, and it's not like something that happened recently. That happened in season 3 or something like that. It was,
I think it's 2, yeah.
I think it was 2. That was a while ago. Like we've known that was a thing for a long time. It just was never brought up. So we would just like we are with a lot of celebrities.
I forgot there was like until it came up. There was a recording about Jack talking about it.
Yeah, and like, I mean, it's very much parallel to like I'll forget that like I'll laugh at people's thing and be like, oh yeah, I was mad at them a year ago because they did something bad, but my mind just pushed it out of the way. And this brings that back up on the character that you love the most, and even has Diane holding it, who Diane wants to hold these people accountable, but she loves Bojack, and it's tough, and it's not an easy thing, and like this show's not gonna have an easy answer to it. Like this show is gonna have a bittersweet ending, and we all know it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be rough, but I mean, I thought that was handled really well. It was just hard.
Yeah. We can get a little more levity here when we talk about Todd.
Okay. I just love like all the different things Todd has been in this show.
Yeah. Yeah, I like when we went to get a Jeremy's. It's like, you've been blah 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 blah. You're way overqualified for this. Let's take you to the top.
Todd immediately becomes a CEO.
Yep. Or top person.
Yeah. And I mean the fact that freaking Todd has like very impactful emotional relationships in this show.
Yeah. You want to talk about the Yolanda episode thing real quick?
Yeah. That was interesting.
Yes. I like the twist on that. Where normally it's like, oh, we're not supposed to let them know we have sex. Like, we can't let them know that we don't like sex.
I love how it just turns it on its head.
Yep.
Like, Bojack just turns everything to 10. Like, every knob it can to 10.
Yep.
Like, a lot of times.
It's a very expensive lube, by the way.
Yeah. Like, I love even stuff like that. It's very predictable where they're going once they went there.
Yeah.
But it's still just so funny.
Yep.
It's still so good.
Yep.
And, I guess just, funny note. Of course, the entire time I was watching Bojack, like, watched the whole thing in this house where my parents live. Parents never walked in on anything ever. They just was sitting there or whatever.
Yeah.
Never walked in until, I guess this wasn't that episode, but never walked in until the Henry Fondler was first revealed. That was exactly the point when my mom walked through the room, was him presenting that, and she said, "Oh God," and kept walking by, and I'm like, nice, cool,
10 out of 10.
Thanks universe, that's cool. That's a cool thing to do. All the other points, it couldn't have been any of those points.
Yep.
It is what it is, man. It is what it is.
But all that happened. Todd, high-ranking person in the business.
So good.
Doing his thing. I always like the gag with the big fat guy and the thing with all of him just doing stuff in the office.
Oh yeah.
At one point he had a magazine with just him,
just in his face on it. I'm sure, like, all the stuff in that room, I'm sure there were some visual gags that I missed. Like,
they're so good.
There's so many gags in there.
And we get to the point where he reveals Henry Fondler.
Which, can we just appreciate? Like, as soon as it got to the point where it had all the people complaining about Henry Fondler, I was like, oh my God, almost everything that these people are saying could have been taken from real life tweets, and they also apply to this sex robot. That's a bad sign for our society. I would really love it if you went and looked and they actually did take this from real life people. Like, I wouldn't be surprised, because they sounded like, as soon as like it went to the news reports where it was like, he groped me, he did this, or he did that, it was whatever, it was like, oh my God, they equally apply to a literal sex robot and real life CEOs.
Yeah. Like, I didn't think much of what he was saying at the time, but now.
Like, oh, it's so good. It's so good. like I legitimately, like, just leaned back and I was like, oh my God, they're doing this.
Yep.
It was another thing. You saw that coming, but it was like, oh yes. It's gonna be so funny, so good.
Yeah.
This was definitely like this season's version of, like, they went there. I think it was like they had like the abortion episode in a previous season. This was definitely the version of that for this episode, for this season. And God, it was amazing. Do we have any more Todd stuff? I thought, like, obviously I'm not someone who's asexual, but I feel like that was very, like, compelling with just the, them worrying about, like, are we just together just because we're the only other person we can find, or should we actually be together? And I'm sure, like, ignorance, but I'm sure that's a real life concern. For people, and I thought that was very compelling.
I mean, probably less of a thing now because it's more. People are more okay with it. I'm sure it was a thing for people, other LGBT people.
Oh yeah, like
just in general. But
it applies for all of it. I feel like asexuality is an even rarer thing to see in, like, pop culture.
I agree.
And stuff. Like, yeah.
So it also applies to the other ones. So some people, like, if they're not asexual, though, it's at least for a lot of those groups, maybe not as big of a thing now because people are a lot more open about it and all that kind of stuff. It's more, for the most part, more socially okay.
Yeah. It's getting better.
So it's easier for those people to find each other.
Right. But it was definitely, like, I mean, it probably tells that this is probably like the first media anything I've seen that has a very explicitly like this is an asexual character, and that's probably telling that that's the first time I've ever seen.
And from what I've seen from people who are in these groups, is that Bojack, I think that, I don't want to speak for them, but it seems like people are saying they're handling as well.
Yeah, obviously neither of us come from a perspective where we can completely comment on it, but you know, I think it's cool to see that. And also just like God, they tackled so much. Like I love the Bojack the feminist episode.
Yeah,
it was just like, oh, the problem with the whole feminism thing is they haven't had men doing it. It's like it's so, I don't know. They like hit everything so square on the head.
Yeah,
it's just, and the whole like, don't choke women. Yes, you're a hero. Don't choke.
Oh wait, and then he did choke.
Oh God.
We'll get to both.
Jesus.
Foreshadowing, Darby.
Jeez.
Before we get to all the Bojack stuff, I can think I have an idea how we can structure the rest of this. Let's talk about Princess Carolyn.
Okay. Sorry, just. Okay. Okay. Anyway, yeah. So obviously, big thing for her was trying to adopt.
Yeah, that's a carryover from the last season, and this season was more like her trying to get the thing and trying to start the whole thing of trying to balance her work life and even just trying to get a baby.
And she
that was hard.
Still fails by the end of the season. It's like it's not like completely resolved, but like
she has to have a baby strong. At least.
Yes, and yeah, I thought that was very compelling. Definitely, it's probably just because I'm from the South, but as soon as they went to that lady in North Carolina, I was like, I've never heard that accent before in my life, but I'm sure everyone else who Bojack Horseman's ever made fun of has also probably said the same thing. Everything is an exaggeration.
Yeah.
And I understand that. But, yeah, that was, you can see it just whenever she's like, this is something she really, really wants, but like she's getting the phone call while she's like driving to Bojack to handle this whole PR crisis like later on and everything. It's like you feel like I feel like all of Princess Carolyn's scenes are like just have this air of like erratic like speed to them and stuff that make you feel like you understand her. Like she wants to do all these things, but it's just impossible because she is way too busy.
I think they bring it up here and made it, and you realize at some point, like, Princess Carolyn for pretty much all the series up to this point really not done much of anything for herself, just more for other people, whether it's for her job or just to help out her friends or give advice or something.
She doesn't even stop long enough to think about herself whatsoever. Yeah.
And even though she didn't become completely selfish, I don't mean that's a bad thing. Even with the baby, she was still worrying about the other stuff. But
yeah, but it was also one of those things that was like she really does want this baby and she would love this baby, but I forgot who exactly said it, but I think someone said something along the lines of like that she would not even be a good mother because she would not have the time to do this or something. I forgot when exactly that came up, but I remember it like thinking like, yeah, would she have any time for this child if she did have a child? Like this child would be kind of like would have no father apparently unless in the situation she's in right now, and she would have no time to do this while doing her job now. It's like maybe she shouldn't have a kid if she has this job, and that's a tough thing to...
I gotta imagine that's going to be the central part of Princess Carolyn's storyline next season.
Yeah. I could see it being the point where she has to change jobs or something, and and struggling with that, because that's a real thing that people, like, especially women who have amazing careers and are, like, like, doing amazing things professionally, but also want to have a kid. And I'm even witnessing my sister have twins right now, and it's like it's near impossible to do anything else, and like struggling with that work-life balance. And then like even if you have to sacrifice the work or sacrifice having a kid, it's a tough thing.
Yeah,
it's a very, very tough thing.
Well, at least for as far as we know, Todd's still living with her. We'll see how long that lasts.
I kind of forgot that was a thing until there was the episode when they were like yeah. But
so Todd is going to be Uncle Todd.
Uncle Todd.
He's going to be the best parent.
Well, if that ends up being the thing, like she doesn't have time or whatever, and she doesn't want to.
So Todd is pretty much raising the.
So he helps raise the kid, even though they're not like a couple or anything. be funny.
Yeah. Could be fun for an early episode.
Yeah. Well.
She's stressed out, but Todd's just really good at it.
Yeah, he just like keeps watching the baby. That could very well happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I loved seeing Princess Carolyn's like earlier years and like seeing her with her mom and everything. And again, everything in BoJack is dialed up to 10, but the whole thing with her mom and being like, oh, just get some rich, like get pregnant from some rich guy and you're good. You're set for life. Like that's all you need to do in life. And it's like obviously people in real life don't say those words out loud, but honestly, that's what a lot of families do. Just expect like, you're never going to be anything. Just, attach yourself to someone who is going to be something. And there you go. That's your life. And that's what so many women get like shoved on them and everything. And like, I thought that was very strong. And it kind of also shows you how Princess Carolyn went from that and just went the polar opposite, where she's like, I'm going to be the best I can be. And it's like very strong.
Strong, independent woman.
Strong, independent.
Don't need a man.
Strong, independent cat lady.
Yep.
And you also saw that from her and Bojack's earlier years with the Halloween party.
Yep.
When she's being pushed around, she's like, "Wait a minute," which also I thought that was so funny when she's like, "Come back in 2 years when you're older." Close the door, open it up. Okay, come back in. Like on the box, it like had crossed out 2004 and it said 2009 or something. That Halloween episode, the more I think about it, like that's one of the better episodes.
Really good episode.
I think there's been. That was really good.
Okay, I guess, do we want to go into BoJack, or do we want to talk about like individual episodes and give them their due, like when they did interesting things before we get into the BoJack?
Yeah, maybe let's talk about individual episodes first.
Okay, so we gotta talk about the funeral episode, right?
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. So that what I talked about earlier, how they could do something experimental. This was absolutely that.
It was one of those things where I was watching film and it's like, this is the episode. This is all it's going to be.
It's one of those like they've done this long enough that you know when they're in that zone. You're like, oh, yep. And you were perfectly fine with it. You're like, I want to see.
Can we talk about how great a voice actor Will Arnett is?
Oh my god!
Like,
dude.
I think I haven't watched everything Will Arnett does, but I've seen a surprisingly a decent amount of stuff.
You've
like,
seen Arrested Development,
yeah, and just some other things he's been in. This is by far like his best role.
I mean, there are a few shows when like I could realize in the first like 2 minutes that they're going to have an episode that's all one person monologuing, and I am absolute 100% confident that the writing, the acting, everything is just going to nail it. I'm like, I had no doubt in my mind. Very few shows where like I really think that they could do that, but man, I mean, like it had everything you want from it. It had like him bringing back the "I see you" line over and over again, and it had like there was like lots of metaphorical stuff, lots of like you just seeing Bojack's character and him just kind of rambling on so he didn't have to deal with the actual pain that he was actually facing. And you have the ending.
Yeah, the punchline. Very long setup.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's also going to go down as one of the greats, that episode. And it's just that character and just Will Arnett and everyone. It's like, god damn it, this character is so
like
special.
It's legitimately a case for all the like main characters, and then even some of the other ones. Like you can't imagine them being any the voice actor being any different than who we already have.
Absolutely not. Like they are that character, and they've been around for so long. Yeah, and it's just.
I like it'd be the point if like they announce that someone's leaving and they're replacing them or for some reason, which I think at this point they would just try to maybe kill them off or something. I don't know. Yeah. Which would be I don't want anyone to leave in any way, shape, or form. So either we get someone to replace them or they kill them off. Yeah,
I need this show to have the ending that the writers want, that it deserves. And I really, really do hope, like, I love the show. But I hope that the ending is like next season or the season after, because like I do not want the show to outstay its welcome. You know, like, I want it to have its good conclusion, which I could see it being as early as next year. But I think the season after that is the very latest. Yeah. Do you have anything more on the funeral one, or just it was great?
No, it's hard to talk about it
because it was literally just a giant monologue, but. it was, I don't know. And like everyone seems pretty universal. I haven't seen many people say like I got bored during it. It's like everyone was like,
I gotta feel like people who made it this far into BoJack are in for that.
Yeah, like I get excited when I realize that that's what they're about to do.
And in the very next episode, we have the whole therapist thing where their therapist is talking to her wife.
So much in this season. Yeah.
They tell their stories and they change everything, and the opening is changed for it as well.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Yeah, with the zebra.
Yeah.
The press zebra or whatever it was. Bobo,
Yep, Princess Diana. Love thing, whatever in the world. Princess Carolyn was.
The, like, embodiment of something.
Yeah.
I don't even remember. Yeah, that was another thing where it's like, yep, they're just going to go all in on this. It was like, that's just such a self-contained, awesome thing that was just paced perfectly.
Yep.
With how they're like, and they're even very self-aware, which is like, oh, my story's not as important. Let's call it a side story. And like, oh, let's
go back and forth.
Let's go back and forth. Like, it's so good. It's so awesome. Yeah, and that's what, again, it's like 12 episodes, and every single one of them like has its own vibe.
Mm-hmm.
It has definitely its own, like, there's no filler. This is all killer, no filler for sure.
Yep.
And everyone has like its own setups and
one thing that's kind of, I guess you maybe call a negative for this, lack of Hollyhock.
Yeah,
that's one thing I was expecting we didn't get. We got her for one episode,
but I think that was kind of intentional.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure it was. It's just kind of like, I like Hollyhock.
Oh, from a fan perspective,
yeah.
Especially with how...
Like, at the end, it sounded like instead of, oh, they're going to have a real relationship, and they do, but...
And just how central of a character she was last season. It's not expected, but then when you think about when you talk to her, it's like, she's off in college, doing, like, living life, experiencing other things, and we're seeing Bojack's life fall apart, and it's like... Yeah, it kind of makes sense for her to only have time to see him once, and that kind of shows that it's like they haven't seen each other in a long time, and then she's leaving immediately, and it's like there was so much build up for both of them for that visit, and then you feel like it was all like wasted and stuff, so they both feel bad about it and everything. Like, I feel like it was good. I feel like that was the right amount of Hollyhock for what they're doing with for that, and yeah, you have not seen the end of her for sure.
Oh no,
and it made that episode special when you're like, hey, we're gonna...
she's back,
and then God, so brutal. And I guess, do you want to like
we can get in the Bojack now, the rest
do
of
we ramp towards the end, because God, I mean, Bojack and just the whole ending of the show.
Yeah, we can get the Bojack now. I think that'll be the case of the quote-unquote special episodes.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, do you have anything to talk about with Bojack in particular before the whole, like, just everything comes to a head at the end? Cause...
Yes, we do. That comes to the head.
Okay, because as soon as it got to the point where you can obviously tell that, like, he has this drug addiction, and I like how that kind of, like, slowly got to that point. Like, he was legitimately hurt, and it was just, like, that's what he attached
It became definitely obvious during the Hollyhock episode, if not before then.
Like, especially, like, I thought as soon as, like, he, like, climbed that fence, I was like,
Even Hollyhock was like, Bojack?
And then it just spiraled worse and worse and worse, and it was just such a, like, very brutal look into drug addiction of people, you know, hiding it from their friends and family, kind of like just not even thinking about it themselves. Even when she like, I found your hiding spot, and I looked around and found these other ones, and it's like that's what a lot of times happens in real life. And it was kind of like not that the stupid piece of shit episode last season was in any way like a fun, lighthearted thing, but I feel like this is like that, but even 10 times worse, because like it's confusing trying to follow it, because like it's confusing for him too. He's like in a complete drug-addled state, and it's like it's so hard watching a character you love so much fall apart like that, and blow up the relationships that you also are pulling for him to like have going for him so hard. And again, just like I've said for every episode in this, it's like that's some of the best television I've seen is like that last episode, the Showstopper episode especially.
Yep.
God. And again, this is like, I wouldn't blame people for getting to the point where it's like, I wouldn't blame people for stop watching the show because it's just too brutal and they don't like Bojack as a character anymore. I honestly wouldn't completely blame them at this point. And I could see how someone could say Bojack Horseman is an amazing show and I can't watch it anymore. I could totally see that because like Bojack has gotten to the point, like what he did at the end of this season is indefensible.
Yeah,
absolutely indefensible. Like he will never be able to come back fully from that. Like you can, like he said,
publicly it seems.
But and that shows in real life. Yep. Publicly, you can come back all the time, but it's like morally in your real life and what you actually
and even the way Gina responded to it, it's like, hey, I'm doing this for my career, but you don't get anywhere near me otherwise.
Yeah. And I thought that was like I appreciated that from her side. Like I like that she's just like, you know, I don't want you to be the biggest thing that's ever happened. I don't want you to be the interview question that I get every single time, like for my entire career. I want to be able to have a life outside of you because you are a monster and I don't want to be around you anymore. And like that's the character we love. That's the main character. That's Bojack Horseman, and it's like
the titular character.
And he completely almost killed killed a defenseless person. And it's like,
and as always for Bojack Horseman, the right place to use fuck. The one fuck for the season.
yeah. I was the only one.
And they do it every season. They just use one.
Yeah. I don't think I had caught that, but yeah, to keep the rating. But no, that was yes. And it's very it's very brutal and difficult, and it's like I said, Bojack will never like completely. What I was going toward was the line that he said. It's like, how do you make things right when you made them so wrong? I forgot the full line, but you know what I'm talking about. And it's like he can't. Just like, and Diane said that she was talking about. I like the parallels between whatever episode that was when they hired the dude who did a bunch of horrible things, and he won the "We Forgive You" award and did all that. And she said, like, well,
I gotta forgive you.
And, and
I think that was what it's
called. And the girl said, like, well, what do you expect him to do or whatever? Like, how can he make this right? And she said, he can't. And it's like, that was easy to say when it's some actor that you don't know, but then the same exact thing can be said about Bojack, and Diane agrees, but it's someone you love.
Yeah.
And I feel like we as the audience is kind of in the exact same situation where it's like, he can't make this better, but I also care about him so much. And this is what they want. And they do such a good job of it.
It shows them like, hey, you're the problem.
This is probably annoying to listen to because I just gush over it so much. But like, God, the show is so good. And the whole music number at the end, and how it ends so abruptly, and it's just like, I don't know. The whole episode was just brutal and so good. So good. Well, do we want to talk anything about how the show ends and just like go?
Well, if we can do that. We mentioned her, but we haven't really talked much about Gina, who is like a big part of this season.
Yeah, and it's another one of these. I'm sure you felt the same way at this point. It's like, this is not gonna last.
No,
like like she's a great character. She's great for him. They're great with each other. He seems happy. She seems happy. It's not going to last.
Nope.
It's like, it's not going to happen.
Didn't really expect it to, unless you caught the foreshadowing.
Yeah, but...
you expected it to end in that way.
That bad.
Yeah.
You thought, it's always ended never that bad. But
nope.
That's just, it's getting worse. That's why he's finally getting help. And like...
Going to a rehab center.
And I also, I like that he's just like, what if I go through all this rehab and I'm still the same shitty person, just sober? And she's like, that's a real possibility. It's like, rehab doesn't work that way. You don't just go in there and come out with all your problems fixed. And hey, spoilers for season 6, he's not going to come out with all of his problems fixed, because that's not how this show works. And
nope.
I wouldn't like this show as much if it was. No, I thought Gina was a great character, because she's so much different than the other ones. She completely did not put up with Bojack's crap. She was very much her own character, and they were great together. And it's like, it's never going to happen, and nor should it.
Yeah.
He doesn't deserve her.
Nope.
In any way, shape, or form.
Nope.
He does not. God, this show. All right. Do we want to talk anything about the end?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. I guess what do we expect? Do we want to talk about what you expect for season 6?
I guess we can. I guess we can also just kind of do it for... We kind of, because of some like for each of the major characters, what we're kind of expecting.
Yeah. Diane, Mr. Peanut Butter.
Obviously, it's either depending on time
have
skip.
Something with each.
I can see it. We do. Mr. Peanut Butter's wedding is going to happen next season, I assume, or at least the lead up to it. Diane's probably going to be involved. Mm-hmm. Like she's going to be invited at the very least, I imagine, and that will have some shenanigans.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, Mr. Peanut Butter will keep on seeing stuff like, "Hey, this is leading to the same problems as all the other ones."
Honestly, my prediction, and like the thing that's so great about this show, is my prediction comes from real people in real life that I've seen go through this, because the show is very much written like real life. I expect that they're not going to be able to be in each other's lives anymore. Like, I don't think I don't think Mr. Peanut Butter is going to be able to have other relationships while Diane's there. And I think that, he's obviously, like, he's cheating on Pickles now and then proposes to her.
Yeah.
And then still obviously wants to be with Diane, but he just cannot, like, he cannot say no, and he cannot.
Oh, I agree with that. Like, that can still go. I was thinking more less maybe Mr. Peanut Butter inviting Diane, but Pickles inviting Diane, and because they had a little thing there at the Halloween party, and and because Pickles did not know about Diane and Mr. Peanut Butter sleeping together afterwards and right before the proposal, that Pickles be like, "Hey, let's invite Diane."
That information is probably going to get out at some point, and I don't see Diane and Mr. Peanut Butter in each other's lives by the end of the show, and that is so hard to say.
Yeah.
This is very hard to say, but I think they were too close. And you saw that, how they were like, "Yeah, we're divorced. We're the coolest divorced people ever, because we can just be around each other and it's not weird at all," or whatever. It's like, because they were basically acting like they were still together. Because like when you're with someone for that long, even if you know you need to be apart, it's hard. Mm-hmm. It's hard when you're just that used to each other. You're in a routine with someone else. And now it's obviously gotten to the point where Diane doesn't want to be in a relationship with Mr. Peanut Butter does. And it's like, it's hard.
Yeah. We all know what the OTP truly is. Bojack and Mr. Peanut Butter.
Obviously. Come on, man. I do also think there's going to be something with Bojack and Mr. Peanut Butter. There's going to be some, like, breakdown point where, like, they actually have an emotional bonding at some point, where Bojack's not always crushing him down. Okay, Princess Carolyn.
We kind of discussed this one more than the other ones. She'll do the whole baby thing. She'll have a hard time with it, and she'll have to make a decision of, like, as far as her career goes.
Yeah,
and maybe that whole Todd thing we were discussing.
I want it to happen. I want Papa Todd.
Guess we can also talk about Todd. What we think? Who knows? It's Todd.
It's Todd. I mean, it's going to be something crazy.
Yeah.
It's going to be something completely outlandish.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope he finds a relationship like that too. But yeah, there's not much to say about Todd.
I can't remember. I can't remember. Then at the end, he discussed with his old girlfriend that he knew since high school or whatever that, hey, it is a thing of asexual people, like, having sex with, other people. That's a...
Is that, like, the last thing I remember was...
Or was that before? I don't know.
The last thing I remember is them talking about, like, she said, so, some asexual people do it. It's like, would that be a possibility? And he said no. And he's like, okay, whatever. That's, maybe I forgot. It's been at least a week or something or whatever since I watched it. I should probably watch it again. But that's the last thing I remember is that they were talking, because she was like, "You're the best boyfriend I've ever had, but there's a crucial part missing," or whatever, and that Todd just was not willing to, But I might be completely wrong. It might have been something that I missed. But he did kill Mr. Harry Fondles.
Same. Best character.
He killed the CEO. Yeah.
I mean, he's the CEO now? That's how it works, right?
He can't be the same thing 2 seasons in a row, Jeff. If he is the CEO, he'll stop.
No. We'll start the season with Todd looking at the building, the clock tower thing burning down. The building burning down. All right, well, on to the next thing.
Yes. On to the next zany adventure. Yeah. Anyone else?
As far as the main characters, we kind of, with Mr. Peanut, kind of threw Diane in there.
Oh, God, we never even talked. I mean, like, there's not that much to talk about, but the whole Vietnam episode was so good, too. And that was, like, her, thinking this is going to be the perfect getaway or whatever, and, like, forget about everything. And then she ends up being, like, she's kind of the ignorant American that she hates. And it's like, I thought that was really strong.
Also, anyway. Some people think that's like there's some kind of commentary thing about it because the Diane's voice actress is white.
Yeah, and apparently that's no, they've
that was a controversy for like 2 seconds.
Yeah, but you could not have Diane not with that voice at this point. It's too good. But no, it's I don't know. Yeah, Diane's very up in the air just because of her life has kind of been uprooted, and she's very unhappy, but she makes everyone else better, and it's like, I still think Diane is probably my favorite character. I still think she's the best, but
apparently I missed something, but I was reading the Etc. thread, just reading impressions, that there was some hint to this, or some joke they made about it, about Diane dying or something, or some hint at it, so people are thinking, at the end she went into the tunnel.
Oh god, I don't think they would have done it that casually, but maybe. I hope not.
We'll see in a year.
Darby might be crying some real adult man tears if that's the case. All right, well, you got anything more to say, or we wrap this up?
I guess we're talking about. Well, did we talk about how thought Bojack was going to be doing?
I guess not.
No.
Oh yeah, no, we did not. Okay,
Yeah.
So he ends in the rehab center.
Yep.
I can't tell you how that's going to end because, again, it's one of those things like it's not going to. I don't know. It's very much like a real person, like going through all of this. Like I could see him potentially being sober, but
I think coming out being sober and holier than thou for a little bit, then crash down.
And I mean, like I could see one thing I could see the show start to feel like it's going down the same path it's done before, where it's like Bojack. This has happened multiple times when Bojack hits a really big low with and there's a little point of hope at the end, and then the start of the next season he's kind of like going back through his normal self, like he's kind of like gotten over that low slump or whatever, and then now he's still self-destructive and funny and zany and all this other stuff. I could see next season starting to do that, and then Diane or someone like being like, this is happening again, you're doing this again, and I'm not sitting through this again, like I can't take this again, and then maybe that will be when he finally starts to change. But Bojack's not going to end this show completely 100% great, because no one's 100% great.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, are there any other characters?
No, I think
any other things you need to get off your chest, Jeff?
No.
Is this the best Bojack Horseman season?
I don't know. It's a really good one, though.
I think it is. I think it is, but I also think that every season's been better than the last. So,
I mean, obviously, I think it's going to be renewed. We haven't gotten that renewed announcement yet.
Yeah, I can't see why it wouldn't.
Yeah.
I would be devastated. I would be absolutely devastated.
I mean, let me put it this way. Bojack Horseman is popular enough to be, like, they're putting on Comedy Central.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
So...
Can't be doing that bad.
Yeah. I feel like it's one of the more well-liked / popular Netflix series. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think so, too.
I feel like at this point, they're just going to unless it really drops, and that's definitely not happening this season, but they're just going to let the writers finish what they want to do.
Yep. And I think these writers handle things with such care. Like, these are not writers who would want to draw this thing out. These are writers, I'm sure they have an ending in mind, and I'm sure they're going to do that. And it's like,
maybe next season?
Like, this is definitely one of the few times where it's like, this show, whenever this show ends, I'm probably legitimately going to follow, like pay attention to where the writers go next, because these are some talented people. Some very talented people.
Indeed.
Alrighty. Well, Jeff, we have to record our Life is Strange Season 2 Spoilercast right now. Probably will not be 54 minutes long. It's good.
Yeah.
It's not that good. It's not 54 minutes of talking good, and it's also not...
What is it? Or, it could be 54 minutes of talking bad. Who knows?
It could be.
Find out.
It could be. We might hate it. We don't. So, thank you guys so much for watching this. Maybe this video will do as good as our last Bojack Horseman video.
It's like our second most popular video.
I don't know. Yeah, people like Bojack, man.
Yeah.
People like Bojack.
And us reacting to Microsoft.
Yep. Combine those two. Bojack game exclusive for the Xbox One. You heard it here first. Check out our Nerds at Large Gaming podcast that post every Monday on our Nerds at Large Gaming podcast channel and our YouTube channel. Check out our Pokemon Emerald Nuzlocke and all of our other shenanigans. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Go Bengals.